Welcome back to You're All Doomed, the podcast where we slice and dice our way through Friday the 13th, A New Beginning, 13 minutes at a time. I am your host, Brian.
I'm Gut Bomb Greg.
This chunk begins with Tommy taking a swing at Junior and ends with, looks like Robin in a blue bathrobe hanging out in her bedroom.
Yeah, this segment really kicks off with Tommy just fucking unloading on Randy Quaid like he's Jeff Speakman.
Yeah, there's some perfect weapon action going on here. It's not just punches. There's some serious, legs, swift kicks and things like that. He's absolutely destroying Junior.
Yeah, needless to say, Junior takes a dive. He hits the ground, and Tommy bellows in rage and fury and runs off into the night. Nearby, the apparently brief visit between Demon and Reggie comes to an end. They've been there for what seems to be all of 5 minutes when they have to pile back into the pickup truck and peel out.
Yeah,
presumably
it's like great,
in search of
great
Tommy.
to see you.
Yeah,
bye.
But that's probably for the best because back in Demon's van, the festering within his bowels has begun to make its presence known. His diet has come back to haunt him.
He blames those damn enchiladas, and it seems like it hits him pretty quickly as he's about to go wreak havoc on a corrugated metal outhouse.
Yeah, he clench runs to this tin-sided shanty and just barely makes it inside and is able to sit down in time, and it's followed by a close-up of his blissful release, by which I mean we see his face and how happy he is to be voiding his bowels. There's some excellent acting going on here, and I really feel for him because I've been there.
We've all been there,
We've
Greg.
all been there.
I noticed some graffiti on the wall in the outhouse. It said, it says Faden was here, and Faden was Victor's last name, the guy who axed Joey to death. So I wonder if this could be also another clue that maybe Victor got away after being taken away into custody after killing Joey, and now he's, writing on outhouse walls for some reason.
Inside of outhouse wall? Apparently that's actually the last name of a friend of the director's brother from childhood. So it's a little bit of an in-joke, but also could perhaps be a clue.
Okay.
Since that was indeed the character's last name as well. As he sits there enjoying his post-purge.
He's so proud of himself.
He's so proud of himself. Someone interrupts his reverie when they begin rattling the outhouse around him, which for a guy who appears to live a rough and tumble lifestyle, or at least, Gramps seemed to indicate that Demon was living a dangerous life. Demon is surprisingly spooked by someone messing with his outhouse.
I mean, we all would be.
I don't blame him. He's not angry. He's not like, hey, cut that fucking out. Like he's frightened. He
really is.
He's obviously in a very vulnerable position. It turns out though that it's just his girlfriend Anita being kind of a dork.
Yeah, she tells him that he'll feel better about it once he's done taking his shit, and Demon says that he'll feel better once he gets out of this shit box that he described as gross.
This shit box is gross, and that might be one of my favorite lines in any movie ever. It's so perfectly delivered.
But Anita decides to double down, and she's like, well, just wait until a snake crawls up from the crapper and bites your ass.
And that seems to freak him out. I mean, it's great. He's been built up to be some kind of badass, but he's this total chicken shit softy, and I love him. He's so entertaining.
But then out of nowhere, Anita just starts singing to Demon, and
she's trying to settle his nerves,
I guess, but she goes, ooh, baby, hey, baby, and then Demon responds, ooh, baby. And the song in itself is nothing spectacular, but we bring it up because there is a fantastic video that's online. It's impossible to really capture all the glory in words. You just have to watch it, and we'll link to it again in the show notes. But it's basically this dance remix of Demon in the shitter and the back and forth between him and Anita. And there's disco lights and there's rocket ships. Yeah, and trust me, you just need to watch it.
It goes cosmic. It's brilliant. Top-notch work.
This song goes back and forth for a few seconds until we hear the faint gasp of Anita outside the gross shit box, and the singing stops pretty abruptly, and Demon calls out for Anita but doesn't get a response. But then the shitbox starts shaking again.
More violently, in
yeah,
fact.
and he's not very happy about this development. So he pulls up his pants without wiping
Noted.
and tries to leave, but the door to the shitbox is blocked by Anita's body, and her throat has been slit.
Yeah, you can still see her pulse a little bit, but that actually doesn't completely undermine the effect. Maybe it's, the remaining blood being pumped out of her dying body. It's fine. That's too bad. I kind of liked this couple, even though as he was getting angry about the shaking shitbox, he kind of referred to her in some unflattering tones and maybe even kind of alluded to maybe smacking her around a little bit, which isn't cool. But I don't even really feel like he meant it. I think that they obviously have a very they had a very close relationship, and I think he was just kind of lashing out in fear and anger. Anita was played by Jerry Fields, who is thankfully another alumni of the Brady Bunch. She was in an episode where Jan Brady was running for most popular girl of her class, and in trying to get as many votes as possible, she was promising everyone in school all sorts of favors. And Jerry Fields was asking Jan if she would babysit her younger brother. So she even had a speaking part, which was cool. And magnificently, she was also in an episode of Different Strokes where Arnold meets Mr. T.
I remember that episode.
Yeah.
I don't know if I remember her, but that's awesome.
And Dudley was also credited for that episode. So possibly he and Jerry Fields shared more than one scene together in their careers. She went to University of Southern California to get a Master of Social Work degree and wound up becoming a licensed clinician. There's some online debate about whether or not she was married to comedian Jimmy Walker at one point. It seems like that's not true, but it's still got legs for some reason.
Yeah, that was a weird rumor that was strong enough that had to be disproven, and it was basically she and Jimmy Walker shared a scene together or went to lunch together. There was something, and that somehow blew up into them being married, and it turned into a big deal. So hopefully she got that cleared up. Because Anita's body is blocking the door to the shipbox, Demon has to retreat back inside the shipbox. And now the walls are being penetrated by a long metal spike. And the spike keeps penetrating the wall over and over again. And eventually, there's only so many places Demon can hide. He does get stabbed in the knee, and that really debilitates him. And he's really kind of fucked at this point.
And he knows it.
Yeah, there's nowhere for him to hide. And his back is up against the wall, literally and figuratively, when the metal spike penetrates one last time, impaling Demon right through the chest.
Yeah, this one hurts. I'm really sorry. I wish we'd had more time with Demon. He was so entertaining, and I feel like he could have been this movie's Ali in the sense that we maybe think he's dead and he comes back heroically at the end, but clearly that's not the case because he's now been completely run through by this long metal spike.
We get so many characters that we don't like that we're stuck with for an entire movie, and then we finally get someone like Demon who we really like, and he's just not around long enough.
Yeah. A lot of the credit for that can be laid at the feet of the actor Miguel A. Nunez Jr., who did a fantastic job. He still works steadily. He had a pretty significant recurring role on Joey, the Friends spinoff with Matt LeBlanc. Most importantly for you and me, Brian, he was featured in Lethal Weapon 3 as one of the squad guys who, when Riggs is explaining the dangers that they now face, says, "Armor-piercing bullets?" I didn't realize that was Miguel Nunez. I'm
Not at all.
Thrilled.
But interesting enough, he had a fight scene with Mel Gibson in the original Lethal Weapon that got cut out, and so this was kind of like a make-do part for him in part 3. But no, I never made the connection that he was the guy that said that, and I've seen that movie so many times, so now I can't wait to watch it again.
Exactly. He was also in Action Jackson, which is just a masterpiece of an action movie with Carl Weathers, and he appeared in the movie Street Fighter, which was written and directed by Steven D'Souza, who you may remember as the writer of Die Hard and the creator of The Powers of Matthew Starr that featured prominently with some actors from previous seasons of this podcast.
The character Demon owns the prestigious honor of being only the second character in a Friday the 13th movie to die with a shit-covered ass. him and Harold are a unique company.
That we know of.
That's true, right? We head back to Pinehurst, and Pam and Reggie the Reckless arrive in the pickup truck. Jake, Violet, Robin, they quickly come out running and greet them. And Jake tells Pam that Matt and George, who we know as Gramps,
although I didn't know that at first and it was completely confused.
Yeah, it took a couple of minutes for me to kind of make that connection, but it's Gramps. They're missing, and Tina and Eddie still haven't come back yet. There's some really confusing back and forth where it sounds like Jake, Violet, and Robin don't seem to know where Matt is, but then all of a sudden, after a little bit of back and forth, Robin says that Matt was going to look for Tina and Eddie. So they knew where he was all along. They just don't know why he hasn't come back yet. But it was just this weird kind of back and forth that didn't make any sense.
Yeah, and Pam then hops back in the pickup truck to, I guess, go find Matt. But if he didn't get in a car or a vehicle and leave, then why would she feel the need to? He wouldn't have covered that much distance. It's a little bit garbled. It's a little bit confusing. But that leaves Jake, Violet, Reggie, and Robin behind with no adult supervision.
In fact, Pam puts Jake in charge and tells everyone that she's the one that's going to go find Matt and Gramps and Tommy. So good luck to her.
Yeah. Over at the Hubbards, Randy Quaid is having a temper tantrum meltdown about getting his ass kicked. He's gunning his motorbike all over the property, riding around screaming. His mother Ethel is in the kitchen, throwing random shit in an enormous pot and calling it making dinner. She really, I guess, is adept at making stew. That's the one thing she's capable of.
Yeah, Junior's just going absolutely insane on his dirt bike, doing these loop-de-loops, riding up on the porch and going through and doing spin-outs around trees. And he's like, he hurt me, Ma! He hurt me, Ma! And his nose is all bloody, and he's just an absolute nutbag.
His mother is getting increasingly impatient and enraged by his behavior, but it doesn't last long because as he's coming around one of his loops by a tree and some shrubbery, an arm wielding a machete flashes out and severs Junior's head, which goes flying. The bike veers off with no living body to control it, and his head hits the ground. Edited quickly, but is a pretty decent-looking severed head effect. And now Randy Quaid has been decapitated.
And Junior has been silenced, finally.
Finally. This was another kill that appears to have been edited by the MPAA. Apparently his head was supposed to bounce a couple of times, and that's enough of a no-no that the producers agreed to trim that footage. Junior was played by Ron Sloan. Not much else in his list of credits, so I'm not sure how actively he's working in the entertainment industry, but he will appear in Deborah Voorhees' upcoming movie that I think everyone here should try to watch.
His character name was James Hubbard, and so he's called Junior, so we can presume there was a James Hubbard Sr., and if he's anything like his son, I'm sure he's off being a fine, upstanding citizen somewhere in the world. We're not the only ones that are relieved that Junior has finally been silenced. Ethel seems pretty pleased that the motorcycle is no longer running and Junior is no longer screaming his head off. But she continues to ridicule Junior as she's making this disgusting stew. Suddenly a hand holding a meat cleaver comes crashing through the window that's kind of above the sink that she's standing in front of, and it just lodges this meat cleaver right in Ethel's forehead, and she goes face first in her pot of her beloved stew.
Yeah, and kind of echoing the death of the hitchhiker with the banana from the previous movie, the camera focuses on her fist squeezing a tomato to pieces as she dies in her pot. Ethel was played by Carol Locatel, who works steadily, has a lot of TV credits. The wig that Ethel wears was actually the actress's. She had worn it in a Burt Reynolds movie called Sharky's Machine, and the casting people for this movie liked it so much that they had her wear it here. Most notably for me, she starred in a TV remake of the movie Bad Seed, which is one of those prototype evil children movies from the 1950s. It's black and white, but it's goddamn hilarious, and I recommend highly that anyone go see the original.
She started an acting workshop in Manhattan where she instructs would-be actors to shut the fuck up and tells them about her award-winning stew. I would never suggest that someone deserves to die, but the Hubbards...
They will not be mourned.
No.
Meanwhile, Pam is driving around in the dark, slowly, looking around randomly, hoping to spot somebody within sight of the road.
I have no idea how she's supposed to find anyone, but whatever.
Her attempt doesn't last very long because the truck randomly decides it's time to die. Maybe it stalled because she was driving so slowly. She gives up immediately and gets out to walk all the way back to Pinehurst. And in the distance, we hear the first rumbles of thunder.
I wonder if it's a storm that's going to tear down the valley like a son of a bitch.
We'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, we'll see. Back at Pinehurst, Jake and Robin are watching a movie. It's 1951's A Place in the Sun, starring Montgomery Clift and Elizabeth Taylor. Interestingly, the plot involves one of its characters drowning in a lake.
Yeah, it's thematically appropriate. They're snuggled awfully close on the sofa, though Robin is paying absolutely no attention to Jake's presence. She's staring ahead, completely absorbed by this movie. It's almost hypnotic, and is clueless about the fact that he's trying to confess his feelings for her. I mean, granted, the poor guy has a stutter, so it's not coming out quickly or clearly, but he's doing his best, and she's just completely oblivious.
I don't understand why Jake decides that when Matt, Gramps, Tina, and Eddie are all missing, that this is the right time to put the moves on Robin.
Yeah, he hasn't really chosen his moment well. Until he says that he wants to make love with her. And then she turns to him and promptly laughs in his face.
I mean, I had that happen to me like 5 or 6 times, and right? No? Oh. I mean, yeah, I can imagine this would be really embarrassing.
I can't even imagine how.
That would be rough.
Yeah, it's pretty cruel, and is very heartless on her part. Maybe she's just uncomfortable and doesn't know how else to react. But it's particularly harsh, and he, feeling rejected, tearfully storms upstairs. Once he reaches the upstairs level, I noticed that there's a sign in the hallway. Apparently there's a handball playing problem at Pinehurst because there's a sign prohibiting such behavior. I actually wonder if that sign was intended for the film crew.
Or if handball is a euphemism.
Nice.
And just don't do it in the hallway, whatever it is.
Anywhere else is fine, but not the hallway.
Once Jake is upstairs, he makes a beeline for Violet's door, and I don't know if he's going to try the same spiel that he used on Robin a minute ago, but he wants to talk to her, and but Violet's busy listening to music and just kind of like dismisses him again. And
yeah, it sounds like an album of porno music. I wonder if it's actually from Danny Steinman's High Rise or something.
Could be.
It's very odd music for a young woman to be listening to.
Dejected again, Jake closes the door on his way out, and I noticed that before we leave Violet's room, she has a few newspaper clippings taped to her door, right next to the door frame, including one of the headlines that says, "Death by sneezing, seeing is believing," and another headline that says, "Human salamanders." I did a little digging and found out that this is from an issue of Weekly World News.
Nice.
In the medical curiosities section. Other articles in that section include "Topless dancer stabs and mulches beau, says cops." And that this medical curiosities edition is 630 pages of photo-packed hardcore edition. It's the 4th printing by popular demand.
Awesome. All we're missing is a shot of Bat Boy.
Jake has his back against Violet's door for a few moments, probably pondering what his next move is. And he eventually decides to leave, and he takes one step forward, turns to his left, and standing directly in front of him is someone holding a meat cleaver raised above his head. And I have no idea how Jake did not see this person before taking that one step forward.
Yeah, it's kind of ridiculous. The cleaver flashes down, but we don't see what happens. So Jake may be dead, but we don't really know for certain. Downstairs, the movie concludes. So Robin shuts off the TV and tries to to get Reggie to wake up. He's asleep on the sofa nearby, and
That was a really creepy reveal because that means that Jake is telling Robin that he wants to make love to her while this little boy is sitting, like resting next to them on the couch.
Good point. It would have been great if Reggie had been awake for that and started laughing or something. Reggie appears to be wearing a fuzzy red onesie, which is an odd outfit for a boy. I mean, he seems like he's nearly a teenager, but, whatever. Robin gently covers him with an Afghan because he refuses to wake up, and she then heads upstairs.
And that's where we kind of leave off with this episode, with Robin walking into her room, and it looks like she's going to get ready for bed, and the storm outside seems to be getting a little bit worse. But this is where we wrap up for this episode, unless you had anything else.
No, the death count is 4 confirmed. Anita, Demon, Junior, and Ethel Hubbard. We can presume a 5th, but Jake's fate is unknown, so perhaps we'll find out later what's happened to him.
So for the time being, Ducky is still alive.
We hope so.
Well, until next episode, I have been Brian.
I have still been Greg.
And you are all doomed.